In today's lesson, we're going to learn how to multiply radicals, and we'll use that with the product property of radicals. It states when I have radical A plus radical B, it will equal to radical A times B, as long as A and B are positive for when it is specifically in this example. We are going to have our steps, which state that we multiply step number one, the coefficients in front of the radicals together. So that's going to be multiplying 2 times 5 to make 10 in front of the radical. Then step number 2 states I'll multiply the radicands, which are the numbers inside the radicals, together. So that gets radical 6 times radical 3. 6 times 3, that is 18 underneath our radical. Last step, we're going to go ahead and simplify the radicand number inside the radical if possible. So I will go ahead and break down 18 into factors of 18, which are two numbers that multiply to 18, 9 and 2. Then break down 9, two numbers that multiply to 9, 3 and 3. Cross out everything you simplified because you will not include it. Circle any pairs you have since it's a square root. There's no index, so it's a square root. I need pairs. And then the 2 I underline as leftover, staying underneath the radical inside. Outside my 3 will go with the 10. And then I know 10 times 3 will become 30 there. Final answer will be 30 radical 2. Let's go ahead and try another example here. In example number 2, we have negative 6 radical 10 times 1. When there's no number in front of the radical, it is a 1 radical 15 there. From here again, we do the same steps like we did before. Step number 1 is multiply the numbers outside. Negative 6 times 1 gets us negative 6. Then we multiply the numbers inside the radical. 10 times 15 gets us 150 underneath the radical. We break down 150 into factors. Luckily, we just multiplied two of them. That would be 10 and 15 that we can break down 150 into. Factors of 10 are 2 and 5, and factors of 15 are 5 and 3. Because there is no index, it is a 2 requiring 2 of a kind, a pair to be taken outside the radical, and anything unpaired, and at the simplest end of our factor tree, staying inside. So we bring down the negative 6 that was already there outside, and then that gets multiplied by the 5 that is brought outside there because it's a pair. Left inside my radical is going to be 3 and 2, which will combine together by multiplication to make 6. Final answer is negative 30 square root of 6. Let's try the next example. 5 times 9 is 45. Then we go ahead and do our second step, which is multiply the numbers inside the radical, which will get me the cube root of 4 times 4, 16 there. From here, we break down our underneath the radical into factors. Factors of 16 are 4 and 4, 2 and 2, and 2 and 2 out of the 4. Cancel out everything you simplified. Circle 3 of a kind because of the index of 3 here on my radical. Tells me I need 3 of a kind instead of pairs. Leaves me the solo 2 inside. Outside will multiply 45 with the triple of 2's I took out. Left inside underneath my radical is the solo 2. 45 times 2 is 90 outside. Cube root 2 as our final answer. And then next, example 4, again, we're going to multiply the outside numbers. 3 times 3 gets us 9 here outside the radical. Underneath the radical, we have 18 and 2, which we will multiply to get the square root of 36. Right away, I go ahead and start my factor tree, breaking up 36 into 6 and 6, 3 and 2, and 3 and 2. Cancel out the 6's and the 36 because we simplified them. And then I will circle any pairs I have because my index is a 2, so I will need pairs to circle. I have a pair of 2's I can take outside, as well as a pair of 3's I can take outside. Multiplying those all together, I get 54 as my final answer. Now, there is no radical in my answer because I circled or crossed out everything, so it left nothing left in my radical. So since there's nothing left inside, it just goes away and becomes 54, no radical there. Every number was out of the radical, nothing was left inside. In the next example, number 5, we again multiply the outside numbers. -2 times -4 gets us 8 outside the radical. Underneath the radical, we multiply the 11 and the 22 here. I'm going to use the right colors, so we have blue here. Multiply those two will get us 242. From here, we can break it down into the factors we know it multiplies to, which is 11 and 22, what we just multiplied to get 242. Break down 22 into 11 and 2. Cancel out everything here that we simplified down and only look at the end roots and prime numbers. Circle any pairs, underline any numbers that are solo that can't be paired and circled. 8 is already outside the radical, and the pair of 11s gets taken outside the radical as well. Left inside, all alone underneath, is the 2 that we underlined. From here, we just multiply 8 times 11, which gives us 88 outside, leaving us with root 2 inside the radical underneath. Final answer, 88 times root 2. Last two examples here. Again, for example 6, we multiply what is outside in front of the radicals. Now, it's -5 times a negative. When it's just that negative, it's really a -1. So we go ahead and multiply -5 times -1. Well, that is a +5. Then we multiply what's underneath the radical with each other, which becomes the cube root of 54. When you multiply 9 times 6, you do get 54. We break down our 54 underneath the radical into a factor tree, giving us 9 and 6, 3 and 3, and then 3 and 2. I circle the triple 3 of a kind and underline the 2, canceling out the 9, 6, and 54. I already simplified down. I will not use them again. 5 is outside, and it will get multiplied with what I'm able to take out, which is my triple of 3's. Left inside underneath the radical is going to be the cube root of 2. From here, my final answer is 5 times 3 outside, making 15 outside the cube root radical of just 2 there. Final answer. Let's move on to our last example 7. For example 7, again, multiply the outside numbers. Now, when there's no number there, it's just 1, so 1 times 1 is 1. And then underneath the radical, my 6 times 12 will give me 72. You do not need the 1 out in front. When you write your final answer, it is correct without it, but it's just important to know that when there's no number there, it is indeed a 1. Then we go ahead and break down our factor tree. Thinking of two numbers that multiply to 72, remember we just had 2, that was 6 and 12. You can use the same ones you just had by multiplying 6 times 12 to get 72. You could also choose other factors as well. You would get the same answer at the end. 2 and 3 are factors of 6. Factors of 12 are 4 and 3. Then factors of 4 are 2 and 2. We are circling pairs because there's no number on the index, so it's a square root we're pairing. Circle the pair of 2's and circle the pair of 3's. Cross out 4, we broke that down. Cross out 12, we broke it down. Cross out 6 and 72. We broke all those down. They are simplified down further, so we do not go back up to the unsimplified form. Last number I had that I didn't circle or cross out is 2, so I underline it because it stays inside the radical all alone, has no pair to come out. What I multiply outside the radical is the 1 that's already there with the 3 that we took out as a pair, as well as the 2 that we took out as a pair. I can have more than one pair, that's fine. I represent each pair with the number that was paired. So I had a pair of 3s, hence why I wrote 1, 3, and then one pair of 2s, hence why I wrote 1, 2. Multiply the numbers all outside, getting a 6 as our final answer outside, times radical 2, because the 2 was left inside the radical.